Hello and welcome to this Churchyard Ramble with me, Jeff Richards, and I'm one of the trustees of the Friends of St Nicholas Churchyard. And it's, we're living in really strange times. This is a historic time that we're living in, this time of COVID-19. So it is a perfect opportunity to make time for history. And since we cannot meet in person, we have to take these rambles online and to be able to explore different aspects of Sutton's history through the power of the internet rather than meeting in the churchyard and rambling around. It's not pleasant today. It's full of rain, and who wants to get wet? Today's session, today's ramble, is entitled "They Shall Mount Up with Wings Like Eagles." That's taken from the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 31, and there. "But they shall wait upon the Lord, but they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint." It's about eagles. Literally about eagles and Sutton's Rectory, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But I really want to say thank you very much to those people who have been supporting us. Enjoy Sutton, the great crowd who run the successful Sutton, holding the high, who look after the interests of the high street, the 450 odd businesses that make up the central business area of Sutton. And also at Sutton Civic Society. And this topic about the Eagles has actually been discussed within the Sutton Civic Society. Sutton Civic Society are the group of citizens of Sutton who are really very active in trying to promote the best interests of Sutton from a development and planning perspective, hopefully being critical friends, ensuring that the changes that take place within Sutton are in the interests of everyone. If you want to learn more about any of the topics that we talk about related to general history, societal changes, and we'll be touching on a number of things today, then learn more about those at Sutton College. They've got a great set of history and culture classes, so please do check out our friends at Sutton College as well. But before we go, let's roll back to a history lesson. This is a map of the very early modern history of Sutton. This is a map, I think it's Rock's map from 1798. So it's really a map of Surrey that was created, and it shows Sutton in its small state as it was. And as we look at this, it's worth reminding ourselves that Sutton hasn't always had a rectory or a place where the priest of the parish lives. And we can probably date when the first rectory was built to 1343. That's important because we can actually go back to the cartlery of Chertsey Abbey, and in there there is a quote that says, "Admission of Oslaclus clericus to a tenement called Stretchus Lond to build a house within 3 years, the Lord finding for the house 12 timbers each 16 foot long." And then there would be a contract for 6 pence and rent 6 pence per annum. And this is very much tied into that period. So it suggests that Oslacus Oxley was the builder of the rectory, and it would explain why the abbot gave timber for the building of this. And certainly by 1496, William Kellett, who I've mentioned in the past, and I do want to talk more about that, especially around the role of the rectors of Sutton in the development of the English language. William Kellett was a clerk in Chancery, and he's mentioned as living in a messuage with a curtilage adjacent, situate opposite to the rectory, rent 2 shillings 6 a quarter. So that's the first mention of a rectory in Sutton history, and that's interesting because we don't mention rectors typically until really after the Reformation, which is a good century, half century later. Anyway, back to what I want to talk about. If we think about where St. Nicholas sits in the land, and here's an aerial photograph of St. Nicholas Church, you can see, hopefully you can see the church. To its west, within the churchyard, you've got the modern rectory and the modern church hall, but in the area to the north of the church, you would see what is the area that we know as today as Beech Tree Close. I'll drop more into that in a moment, but actually what you've got is a very modern rectory now and a modern hall, all built in the 1970s. But what's interesting and what ties back to really the changes made to Sutton and the old rectory is we've got this property called Beech Tree Close, all built on what was the rectory land. And this is off the St. Nicholas Way. So if you imagine the main drag, if you like, now, the St. Nicholas Way in Sutton, that's a brand new road pushed through, cutting across a lot of the properties. And here is a new set of houses built on the rectory land. And if you notice, there are eagles sitting on plinths mounted into the walls. And so you hear these 2 eagles that we've got. Now, I don't think they look particularly attractive as eagles. I don't think they are. But again, where the original rectory these were the eagles that sat on the gate of the rectory that was what was then in West Street. So West Street is still in existence, still there, and again, it's something that features very, very prominently within the physical history of Sutton in terms of the where things took place. Now, what we're looking at here is actually a photograph of St. Nicholas from the I think this is in the 1930s. So you've still got the Methodist Church in the High Street, which was going to be demolished. You've got the old Civic Hall, but importantly, you can see the church, the churchyard, and then to the south of it, green space with trees, with the rectory nestled in there. Very starting in the 1930s to become very, very built up around the churchyard. And this is another view which emphasises that actually the rectory garden and the rectory land was actually a big, substantial chunk of land, very much in the heart of Sutton. And you've got this big house there. Now, if we do some exploration of the maps, I can jump in to look at a map. Now, this is a brilliant site. This is a map lifted out of the National Library of Scotland database, and they allow for side-by-side comparisons of maps. And what I'm looking at here is right in the centre. You see the dark blob is where it says church, and then above it says rectory, and the rectory is sitting in a large parcel of land, and that large parcel of land has got its drive running up to the rectory. And you can see, if we were to do a comparison of today's, that trace of that has been swallowed up by the modern developments of the property. St Nicholas Way is, as I said, is a brand new road. It's punched in from the 1970s, changing the course of Church Road. If we look at going back to what we were thinking about, is really tracing those eagles, and let's just remind ourselves, this is beech. These are the eagles that you see on Beech Tree Close. They were originally mounted on the gate of the rectory. So this is the design for that. Now, what's interesting about that is that we would have probably just said, oh, they came from the rectory. They didn't come just from the rectory, because very importantly, in the architectural diagrams for the rectory gates, it says the old eagles repaired and reused. So you've got here eagles that have come from potentially a previous building. Now, what's interesting is about the building that we see, and this is the rear view. This is what the back door, if you like, of the rectory. What we see, what we see here is the back door. This particular view is again from when the rectory was rebuilt in 1887, and it was rebuilt for the new rector, Reverend Turner. And so when Reverend Turner came from Christchurch to Sutton, this is where he came, and this is his front door. And the drive would have led up to that. Now we can see we've got evidence of the rectory in photographs. We've got the 1887 rectory, and you can see it here in this photograph. And this is the best photograph I've been able to find of showing the rectory from West Street. So the entrance of the rectory was in West Street leading up. And this is starting to show all the trees that are present. Now, we see that those eagles came from an earlier building, and they could have come from a house that was a former rectory. We don't know that it came from another rectory, but we do have a tantalising glimpse of potentially a building that came before. Now, in the notes about the rebuild of the rectory in 1887 is that it was rebuilt adjacent to the old rectory. So we saw the parcel of land was so big that it allowed this to happen. I found this photograph. This is a postcard that I purchased, and it's interesting because it says Sutton Rectory, but it is not the building that was designed, and it's not the building that existed. But there's a few little interesting clues here. We see Sutton Rectory. We see a man riding a tricycle. And we see the name of the photographer, Simmons. Well, this is all very interesting. Who is this? And what could this be? Well, I don't know about Simmons, but the postcard was posted from Beckenham. So it was posted in 1905. So we're looking at something that can be no later than 1905. But if we look to the evidence of the bicycle, and we know that bicycling was very, very popular. Pearson's shop in the High Street, I think, was opened in 1860. By 1880, Mr. Pearson was working a lot with bikes, and the particular bike on the postcard looks like this. This is this strange bike. You imagine it flip round. Now, this is something called a Royal Salvo. rotary tricycle, and it's interesting because this is a bike that was presented to Queen Victoria, and I think that the patent for this is 1881. So if this picture is of early cycling in Sutton of 1881, then we have a strong suggestion that this could be the original rectory viewed from West Street as we're looking up towards the rectory, because this appears to be the front door of the house. Well, if that's the case, and if those eagles came from the former rectory, that building starts to give us a sense as to what the earliest buildings of Sutton look like, and we might well be able to take that further back. Now, this photograph, it does need to be do more research. The Simmons that I found, there may have been a Simmons operating in New Malden as a photographer in the 1880s, but I don't know. I have to do a little bit more research on that. I hope that that's been an interesting ramble for you. It's a strange, all over the place little talk really about the Eagles and their history. If you want to know more about Sutton, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you want to know more, of course, about local history, then go to Sutton College to find out more. I look forward to being able to speak to you again soon. I hope that was fun. So long, Sutton, your history.